Hello, my name is Ilona, and in this video, and there's probably going to be multiple videos, maybe 2 or 3, I want to take a look at how to change your life. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. How do I change things? Where do I start? And I just wanted to, give my insights, how I see things. Of course, always see if it resonates with you or not. But the first thing you need is oversight. And that's very important. If you want to change things, you need to know where you stand now. Otherwise, you really have no point of reference to start from. So make an inventory. That's the first step. Make an inventory of your life. So look at your relationships, family, context, or context is also very important, but context. Your work, what you do on a daily basis. How are you with your colleagues, your superiors, if that's relevant to you? How do you feel about your work? So it's very important to just write down, because I do believe writing down is important because it gives you this distance from looking at it. So write down what you're doing, you just on a daily basis, your work, how you feel about that. If there are things that are not going the way you want it to go, and just put a few words with that. Or if you want to write it out, if that feels right to you. But I like just some specific words with in certain areas. So with work, just look at that. Colleagues, superiors, where do you live? Do you like where you live? Your surroundings. Of course, with family, how are things going? What are your most important relationships with your family? Of course, your love relationships, if you have them or not. If you're single, you can put that down. How does that make you feel? Things like that. Make an inventory. And these are more the things you happening in your life. Maybe you can just look at your agenda and see what happened the past week. Maybe you have hobbies, maybe you go out a lot. Just see what is important to you and how you feel about that. Just put those things down. That's the inventory. Now, I got a few cards with me from the tarot because I really enjoy tarot cards. That's my passion, so to speak. So, and what is important to me, what I enjoy doing. And the first one is the Ace of Pentacles. Now, Pentacles is, of course, the element Earth, and that's about the practical things, like we just mentioned, or what I just mentioned about your work, the things you do on a daily routine. Shouldn't have forgotten that one, but raising children, one of the toughest, if not the toughest job in the world for mothers and fathers is raising children. How do you feel about that? How, the relationship with your children, things like that. Just put them down, what is relevant for you. And in this case, with Pentacles, also look at your finances. How are things going financially? Do you always feel like you have an end of month left and there's no money anymore? Is it struggling? Do you have abundance? Do you have everything you want? Maybe health-wise, how is your health? Are you treating your body with respect? Maybe there are some addictions. Maybe there is some, issues. How do you feed yourself? What kind of food do you take in? This is really about an inventory very practically. This is the element Earth, Pentacles. Very practically, those practical things, home, work, relationships, and just, how I say this, your body, how you treat this. So that's very important that you just, and of course I'm not going to be able to say everything, but just look into your life, what is relevant for you, and really make an inventory. And then the second is, of course, the Ace of Cups, emotions, feelings. How is that going in your life? Are you allowed to show your emotions, your feelings, or do you put them down? Do you suppress them? Do you have problems expressing them to people around you, in your surroundings? How is this feeling of connection? Do you feel connected to the people around you? Do you feel connected to your work or what you do? Maybe you don't have a true connection with your work, but with a hobby that you're fully engaged with, or maybe a connection with people, or Just connection with yourself, very important as well. Just look at the cups, the water element. Look at what is important to you with emotions and feelings, and just write that down. It doesn't have to be very long, just maybe some short notes. How does that feel? How is that working out for you? Maybe you're always in your feelings. You're always being swept off by feelings around you, or just feeling a certain way. You have these highs and these lows. Just write it down. It's not about judging yourself at all. It's just to look at things. Just get a perspective of where you are now. So the Ace of Cups is important as well. And then we're going to the Ace of Swords. This is the mental level. This is about the air element. Maybe you're always in your head. I have that tendency, always analyzing everything, trying to control things by analyzing, figuring out solutions and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that, but if that is the only thing how you approach life, then of course it's not in balance. But just write that down. It's just about an inventory. It's about how you respond. Do you feel like... Personally, I need an intellectual challenge. I like reading about other ideas, especially about psychology and insight. I love that. And I need that as well. Maybe you need that as well. Some people need more physical stimulants. They need more movement, and other people need to be challenged more intellectually, or maybe on an emotional level. See what is important for you, and if you're maybe missing that in your life. Just write that down. So this is about inspiration, about ideas, about opening yourself up to new perspectives. Is that possible in your life, or are you always stuck in the same rut? So that's the Ace of Swords. And the last thing we're going to look at is the Ace of Wands. And this is about fire, the element fire. This is about passion and sexuality. It's about, look at that in your life. Do you feel a passion for what you do? Or maybe it's in your work, maybe it's in a hobby. It's very important to feel that. Maybe you don't feel that at all. Maybe you feel you're kind of just on an automatic pilot. It's just, a little bit blah feeling. So just write that down. This is an inventory. So just write it down and just look at that, because it's important to have that sense of adventure, that sense of excitement for your life. It helps you grow. It helps you open up. You need that spark. So it's very important to look at that. Is there a spark in my life, or is that what I'm missing? Or do I have a feeling that I'm never going to get that spark to begin with? Just write those things down. Everything that, anything that's coming up, everything that is important or feels important, just write it down. And that's why writing down is so important, because you can get really very clear oversight. What is going on right now in my life, and which areas are not the way it should be or should be different. And this is very important. That's why the inventory is so important to start with. And that's why I'm also taking these cards, because it gives you, how do you say this, a way to look into your life, on a practical level, emotional level, mental level, so to speak, on a rational level, and of course the passion, the energetic level. How are things going there? And of course, if you are perfectly fine, you can write that down as well. But it is very important to just get an idea and just make it as big as possible. I'm just seeing if I've checked everything. But the last thing, that is of course one, personally think the most important one. But these are the elements I wanted to discuss, and that's spirituality. We are spiritual beings. And I couldn't really find a card that completely embodies spirituality. It's the intuition, working with insight, with your wisdom, but also manifesting it. That's spirituality to me. It's not something passive. It is passive and active combined. So it's the receiving end with, of course, the active end. So if you feel your intuition, that you're going to act on it. This is also the key to changing your life. So really, this is pretty much the key. You want to change your life? Listen to your intuition and start acting on it. But I just wanted to show these cards. This is the spirituality. How is spirituality expressed in your life? Not everyone wants to sit on a pillow and meditate all day. Some people really like to be busy physically in nature, and that is for them a spiritual, experience. So it's very important, where do you experience yourself, your intuition, and at what time do you feel closest to yourself? I personally need time for myself. I've mentioned this many times before. I'm an introvert, so I need time for myself to recharge, connect with myself. And other people will have other things. But look at your own life. What is for you connecting? Maybe you're not connecting with your intuition at all. Maybe that's why you're at a loss where to start, because you don't have that connection. So it's very important to just write that down for now. We're going to be working with it later on, but just write it down. This is the inventory. What is going on spiritually? How do you feed yourself spiritually? Personally, I like reading books. I like connecting with myself, feeling my emotions and my feelings, because I've been mostly in my head most of my life. That is important for me. Grounding myself. That is part of my spirituality. So see for yourself how that's working out. How are you feeding yourself spiritually? Maybe you are completely, impoverished? Is that a correct word? I don't think so. But maybe you're really out of food for a long time spiritually. Maybe you are in an environment right now where there is not much room to have a spiritual experience. So look at that. Just write it down. This is about an inventory. This is just looking at what is going on in your life right now. So this is very important. This is the first step. The second step is, you can just leave the inventory for now. What would your ideal life be like? How would that express itself? What would you do for your work? Who would you be living with? Maybe you'd be living all by yourself, very happy. Just write things down. What would your ideal life be? Without any limitations or but I don't have enough for that, what would be your life like? What would be your ideal life? Maybe there are wishes, maybe you'd like to do, maybe you'd like to travel, maybe you'd like to start a creative endeavor. Just write that down. What would your ideal life be? I would emphasize, but it depends. Some people say that if you do want to draw in something like work or relationship, that you're very specific what you want. I personally would emphasize the feeling you get. Like, I would really love to draw in a relationship. I'm single. And my most important feeling is that connection with someone and sharing, loving, and respect. That's very important to me in a relationship. So that's what I'm longing for. Connection, respectful. We do not have to agree on everything, but there needs to be a mutual respect and, of course, a lot of loving. But that's connected to the connection to me. But it's very important that you feel it. Maybe you want to travel because it gives you a sense of freedom. So focus then on that freedom, because you can really create freedom in all kinds of ways. But if you really want to write down, no, I want to do this, that's fine too. See what's right for you. So I like to emphasize the feeling I'm getting, and other people will like to emphasize all the details around, like a new house they want. See what fits for you. But what would your ideal life be like? What would it be like? Just write it down. And maybe you have no idea. Maybe you're like, I really don't have a clue. Well, then you can leave this second step for just right now. And then you can move on to the third step, which is, of course, if you have written, of course, the second, life, the ideal life, you can compare it to your life now and see what's missing. Of course, if you haven't done the second step, then you can just look at, okay, this is what I don't want. Look into that. This is probably the most important part. You need to get it very clear what's going on in your life. What is the mirror? So I'm probably going to be diving into this in another video more, but you can just start with, okay, my love life. I keep running into people with this energy. I keep repeating this, and maybe you don't even see the patterns, but just write down, what doesn't feel right to you. Maybe you don't feel loved or seen, or somebody's walking all over your boundaries. Just put those things down. It's very important. This step is so important. And if you just maybe not see it, we all have blind spot. You can get help. Personally, of course, I have readings and consultations, and this is what I'm really good at. I can really pick up very quickly what the pattern is and where it comes from. Usually when I talk to or speak to people, I kind of feel it like, oh, this is, and to be very honest, until now, everyone can, that I've spoken to was like, yeah, this feels correct to me. So that's good for me, so to speak. But it's always see if it resonates, obviously, but I'm really good for other people. For myself, that's a different matter, but for other people, I can clearly see this is what's going on and you need to. But you can also ask friends, family, people in your surroundings, or maybe if it's really very tough material, we're talking traumas and lots of awful things, you should get professional help. Don't be afraid to get professional help, because then you need to work through that. You need real support for that. And of course, if you just need some insights, you can contact me or contact just people in your in your surroundings that can look at it from a different perspective. Usually it's just a change of perspective, and then you're like, oh, why didn't I see this before? But I already know this, because most things you already know. But it's, those blind spots, those are, resistance that come up, mechanisms that have kept this pattern intact for so long. So don't be angry about that, but really start looking through maybe just part of your, areas in your life. Maybe if it's too much all in one, the inventory, just take a few areas you really want to look at. It's all connected. If you start changing in one area, you pretty much are going to change the rest of your life. But just look at what you run into, maybe on your work with colleagues, what's going on, how does that make you feel? Just be very honest, because that's themes. You can look deeper into that, and usually those are patterns you taken with you from maybe past lifetimes or future lifetimes, but ultimately it's happening now in this lifetime. So usually in your youth, those patterns are already triggered and you can already see it, and then you can see it that in the rest of your life, this all playing out. And if you get insight into that, if you can see it, the oversight, then you can start changing. Now we'll talk about that in another video, how you can do that or start working with that. But this is really one of the most important steps. First, of course, the oversight, the inventory. Then, of course, what is your ideal life? And then the third, start comparing it. Start seeing, what am I missing? What parts of my life I want to change? Maybe there are parts that are working wonderfully. In that case, you can just leave it for what it is. But just look at the parts, maybe with family. Can be all kinds of things. But look at that and see what is the situation, what is happening. And usually it's a similar situation, or even with relationships, there are similar people, but it's the similar energy, but it's a different person. But the energy is, you keep usually repeating the same sort of energy. And just look at that. Don't be angry about that. This is about changing your life. It's also very possible that you've worked through a lot already, but this is now the deepest things you need to heal. So just see what comes up. What is things that still aren't working. And that's the third step. And the last step I want to mention in this video, and this is more to raise your vibration. What are you grateful for? That's a beautiful energy, just to be grateful. I'm grateful where I live. I live in I rent a very small little house, but I'm so happy with that. And I've got a very small little garden, and I fixed everything, and I've got lights everywhere that work on the solar energy, and it's just wonderful to be in. And I truly enjoy that. I enjoy giving readings to people, helping them, giving them insights. I enjoy making this video. It's videos that I make. It's just, I truly am grateful for the things I can do and where I am. And it's important every day or every other day just to be grateful for certain things. Just to, what am I grateful for today? What has happened today? Because that is such a beautiful vibration. And then you will draw in more, because it's so powerful, being grateful. And then you are already changing your life. So that's just a little tip to change things, is be grateful and to just realize it can be very small things. It doesn't have to be something big. But that feeling of gratefulness is going to draw in more of that. So it's very important. I wanted to finish this video with that. And I hope to see you in another video. Bye.